Welcome, everyone. This is Joe Dager, the host of the Business 901 podcast. With me today is John Latham. John is the founder of the Organizational Design Studio, which is a digital learning center and application lab for organization architects. His passion is creating frameworks that build bridges between theory and practice to help designers build and transform organizations that create sustainable value. He can be found at organizationdesignstudio.com, which includes a robust side design for learning. John, I guess the best place to start is thanks for being here and tell us about that organization design community.
Well, thanks, Joe. It's great to be here. I love your podcast, and it's just an honor to be invited. Organization design community is an interesting group because it's people that use those words, organization design, it's kind of a fragmented group. There's all kinds of people involved, and it's not really well structured and well defined. And I think part of the issue is that it's cross-disciplinary. And so anytime you have a topic that's cross-disciplinary and involves a lot of different things in an organization, there's very few real formal tracks. So the community is really a collection of leaders who are trying to change the systems in their organization or their organization, and frontline process improvement people who are redesigning some piece of the organization. So it includes them all, plus a whole lot of subject matter experts and consultants that help leaders make the changes necessary. So it's a crazy landscape, and includes just a whole lot of different people in it.
Well, I think you go into that lean philosophy, though, they don't even call things solution, they call things countermeasures, because it's never really fixed. Okay. And if you don't see problems, that is a problem, right?
Exactly.
So I think you said that very well. I have to ask you just a last question here, okay? And I've taken so much of your time, but you explain systems thinking so well. It's embedded in your process. I get a natural feeling that the root of most of this and all of this is systems thinking. You seem to be practical about it, which I compliment you on, because I think most people, when they go into systems thinking, they're going to, you get off on some tangent. Is that why that may be not so popular? I mean, we all talk about it, but there's not a lot of systems thinking companies out there. There's not a lot of, that concept seems very, I don't know the right word for it, but it always seems out there, okay? But it's not practical for most of us. And do you see that, and can you summarize a little bit what I said in better terms, okay?
I don't know if I can think of any better terms, Joe, but I've pondered this question of why it has been slow to be adopted or put into practice, and I think there's a few different explanations that are probably all contributing to it. One of them is it's the way we teach people and bring them up. We don't teach people about systems and to think in systems in school. Not in K through 12, we don't really. We teach individual courses with very little discussion and or exercises around integrating those courses together into a system. And we continue that in business schools for sure. I mean, I'm not sure about the engineering programs, but I know the business schools, not only business schools are organized in silos. So much so that the marketing people or the finance people or accountants, they often will know their colleagues around the world in their discipline better than they know their colleagues in another department down the hall. It's just not a very integrated organization itself. And neither is the curriculum for most business schools. I mean, I'm sure there's some out there, and there's some that are doing well at this, but most business schools, they train in the pieces and parts and the silos. They give specializations and degrees in the pieces and parts and silos. And most of them rely on one course called a strategy course to try to bring it all together. And by that point, it's usually too late in the curriculum. And then we send them to organizations, and they create siloed functional organizations that they don't look at as systems. And we wonder why. Well, we trained them that way. That's so we get what we get what we deserve, I guess. So I think that's one issue. The other issue is just humans and the limitations of humans and the way we learn. And other people have pointed this out all the way back, I think, to Jay Forrester's work and Deming's work and Senge's work, point out the distance, when the distance between cause and effect is quite large and not immediate, we have difficulty making the connection intellectually between cause and effect. And so, when you're driving a car and you're turning the wheel left a little bit and the car makes a change, we learn pretty fast that turning the wheel makes the car move in that different direction. So the learning loop is very fast. In organization and other systems, it's not so fast. You have this delay built in between action and the result. Senge uses a few great examples like the aspirin. You take an aspirin, your headache doesn't go away immediately because there's a delay in the effect. Same way with hot water and the tap and adjusting it. Well, when you talk about organizations, you can magnify that issue 1,000 times, I think, because not only do you have a delay but the policy we create, the change in a process, whatever it is, and the actual results that we're getting are often months later, and they're out, and the result is in a different process or a different place in the flow than the cause is. And so because of that difference, I think it becomes very difficult for us to learn. So we need really good and explicit models about our organization, theories about how our organization works, in order just to have the conversation. And you add into that all the external and internal factors that are impacting those results. We now have not good experiments. They're not controlled experiments. And so we often can't explain the results completely by what we did 3 months prior. And so, but there is hope. I see a little ray of hope on the horizon, because the unfulfilled promise of big data and the digital processes and how we measure them might help us take a few steps forward in systems thinking. Because if we can come up with the right mental models and the right structures and a way to think about it, we can then guide the collection of the digital information that now would be much cheaper, free almost, and after you design it, to collect the data we need to actually analyze the system in a way that's more profound than we currently are doing it. Just not to start a new topic, but I think part of what gets involved in this is Deming's system of profound knowledge, where organizations are this combination of psychology and people, systems and variation and statistics and understanding what variation looks like, and that fourth component that he proposed, you have to have a theory of knowledge and to help you understand all that. Well, that's not easy stuff, and I think that's part of what's lagged behind. But I see hope that with these tools, a lot of times we just lacked the information to even have the conversation in any way that wasn't conceptual. So now with the data, we may be able to get grounded in data and facts and be able to really ferret out some of these ways these systems work that we haven't been able to do before. But we're going to have to create those models. Otherwise, big data is just a bunch of data.
And I think has a great observation, because just as you're talking there, I'm sitting there thinking, okay, we have all this past data that we're looking at and everything, and we all have that we can gather current data so quickly now, it's instantaneous. But what big data, the promise of big data, is now we got predictive analytics, we got predictive data. So that cause and effect we've got from we're shrinking that all at to the present moment, right? That we get quick enough. That cause and effect is we've taken that delay and shrunk that delay a great deal with data.
That if we can achieve that, big data will fulfill its promise. But right now, we don't really, I haven't seen too many people use the systems thinking structures to combine with big data to come out. There's a few that have, and there's some good examples, but that would have to become widespread. And if we can make our organization designs explicit, and by design I mean the systems explicit, not just the hierarchy and structure, which is so much often what we think of with org design, but the actual how the flows of information and value work in the organization. I think we have a chance of really leveraging big data to make a big difference.
Great conversation. That has to wait for another podcast, probably. Okay. What's upcoming for John Latham?
Well, I'm on I'm attempting to be on a bit of a sabbatical working on a book that goes into much greater depth on those two frameworks and the 14 steps. And so what you see on the site, we produce out a weekly article that explores different issues. But this book, I'm hoping really will provide people with much more depth on the application and what it really means to organizations and how to do something with that information even further than what the current information does. And at the same time, working on e-course to help people with worksheets that actually help them apply these concepts. And I can only fly to so many places and get around, so I've stopped doing that for the time being. And I'm focusing on trying to reinvent how we get these ideas out to people, and not reinvent, but adopt really other practices that are digital, and to where anybody with an internet connection and probably needs to speak English can get to the course and the book and learn these techniques. And so we're looking for ways to structure this course where it's not education as much as it is a workshop where they actually do applied work all the way through it and apply it to their organization. So more to come on that, but that's what we see as the future and how to really help the most people we can.
What's the best way for someone to connect up with you?
Well, the first way is organizationdesignstudio.com, and there's several ways to connect with us there. You can contact us through that site. There's several social media places where we've started putting stuff, and we're going to attempt to build a conversation and a community out there in the social media. But my direct email is john@organizationdesignstudio.com. So if you want to email me directly, I answer all my own mail. I don't even have a virtual assistant that does that. So when you hear back from me, it's me.
It's really you. Huh?
It's really me. John@organizationdesignstudio.com is the email.
Okay. Well, I'd like to thank you very much, John. I appreciate it. This podcast will be available on Business 901 iTunes Store, the Business 901 website. So thanks, everyone, for listening.
Thanks, Joe.